Good afternoon, everybody. Frank Bryant here. Hold on, can we get that?
Yeah, just got to mute that.
All right, start again here. All right. Afternoon, everybody. Frank Bryant here over for Medicare Gurus, and today we are going to be covering a topic that has been coming up repeatedly.
Did you turn your mic on? Power. Thank you. And start over if you don't.
Okay, we'll go take three.
Take three.
Wow, we are all sorts of ready for my end today. Sorry about that, guys. Frank Bryant here, Medicare Gurus. We are going to be covering a topic here that is a feeder topic from questions and issues we've seen people asking. And we have been encountering a lot of people that seem to be hesitant to make calls and are really worried about not knowing something if a client asks a question and things of that nature. And while we could address each one of these topics and each one of these questions individually, we'll end up doing that forever to the end of time. And ultimately speaking, most of it doesn't matter. So let's talk about what we really need to address on this, not only for the agents themselves, but also for the clients and how this concern is actually a big asset for you. And the topic we are going to be talking about is one that actually is absolutely essential to every sale. Every single sale does not occur unless you have this element in the conversation, whether it be the person that's being sold to or what they need to have addressed, or let's just say the agent themselves or the salesperson themselves. They have to sit there and overcome in order to help the client with this. Does anyone have any ideas what that is?
I'm going to guess confidence.
You, Victoria?
An agent being unsure about their knowledge level of Medicare, the product.
Okay. So what I'm talking about is the underlying driving motivation for every human activity. And that is, ladies and gentlemen, fear. Fear is the primary motivational factor for every living being on this planet. Even animals that don't have love, they're afraid of stuff. It is the primary base emotion that other emotions have been built off of. It existed before anything else. Affection, intelligence, language, love, all of that. Fear. We know this because it resides right here. That's where fear lives, in the amygdala. Right in the center of the brain. It was one of the earliest parts of the brain to develop. It's a survival mechanism. Ow, that hurt. Don't do that. You'll die. You can't pass on your genome to the next generation. Can't procreate if you're dead. Right? So the first multicellular organisms that developed a brain developed that first. And therefore, they were able to pass on their genes. So fear is the primary motivation for all action or inaction, fight or flight. Or I'm paralyzed by fear, so they just sat there and got smashed by the car, right? All of that. So when we're talking about agents are afraid to get on the phone, that fear is causing inaction. They're paralyzed by the concept of the unknown. What if this happens? What happens if this happens? What if they ask this and I don't know it? All easily surmountable issues, but that fear is so real that how do we get past it? How do we get past that for an agent? Better yet, how do I turn around and use this fear in a healthy, productive way to make a sale? And that's just about understanding what it really is. So we're going to go through a little bit of neurology here because I think it's important for you guys to understand how the brain works so you can understand these concepts and how they actually apply. Number one, your source emotion, fear. This keeps you alive. It's super important. That's why it's tucked in the middle to where it can't get any damage, and it's also the first to develop. Your brain grew out as we evolved. That's why they call this big black mass over here, that's the neocortex, the new cortex. That is something that is new in evolution. That over here is what screws you up, by the way. Your new brain really screws you up. First off, Let's go ahead and dispel this. I don't care how smart or intelligent you are. Your brain is stupid. Your brain is just dumb because it's driven by chemicals, right? Next to this amygdala that actually attaches to it is what's called the hippocampus. That's where all learning resides. Why is it important that they connect? Well, you better learn to be afraid of the thing that just hurt you so you don't do it again. Right? Up here, after you go through some of these bridges, you have this thing called the cingulate cortex. There are lots of parts of it, but the important thing about the cingulate cortex is this. It controls all pain input. And it is also the executive decision center of your brain. In other words, you have to usually make decisions about avoiding pain or damage to your body before you actually can process what's happening to you. So between these three areas, this is where learned behavior and pain input and decision making all occurs. You don't think about stuff to do. You really just stop yourself from doing it. Right? That's what impulse control is. Oh, I want another cookie. Well, I'm with diabetes. Right? You're already reaching for the cookie. Your brain goes, I want it, But it also sits there and goes, okay, how do I avoid damage? How do I avoid pain? How do we do this? So I know people will fight and go, well, no, I do things because I want stuff. Anyone who's had the pleasure of talking to me before now, especially if you're recruited and I was the one talking to you, will understand that I ask a question to almost everybody, which is, look forward 5 years, 3 years, or whatever it is, and tell me what keeps you up at night. Right? What keeps you up at night? What do you not want to be living in? What do you not want to be happening to you? What are you afraid of going down? That's because it's way more powerful than going, hey, do you want a boat? Do you want a nice car? Do you want to go pay for your kids' education? Well, yeah, everyone wants that stuff. But how do I get it? Me asking, hey, do you want your kids to be able to go to a good school? Or do you want them to just, try to struggle through community college for 8 years? Easy answer, right? So it's fear, guys. Fear is what prevents you from getting on the phone. Fear is what makes you freeze up on a presentation. Fear is all that. Now, the first thing I want to go ahead and say is this. Anyone who is afraid to get on the phone or afraid to start a conversation or afraid of what a customer would ask them needs to understand one basic thing. It doesn't matter. The customer hasn't asked you a question. Number two, they're not laying a trap for you, right? Because if they could Google something, they would have already done it. They often don't even know what the question to ask is, or they ask a question that's irrelevant. If they ask you a question, you're in a conversation, you're already winning. Okay? No matter what, especially with the leads we're providing you, the primer leads, as we are starting you out with these guys, you're supposed to experiment. You're supposed to engage this part of your brain, the hippocampus. You're supposed to learn new things through experience and failing and succeeding. By the way, when you do that, you get a little thing called dopamine. That's another evolutionary tool. One of our primate ancestors had a mutation that caused every time he learned something new, he got dopamine and he advanced. He could eat termites. He could do basic tool use. He survived, and here we are, for better or worse, right? So while everyone else was still operating off fear, he was able to overcome it and make that fear, negate it through learning. So that's what we have right here. Now, how do we use fear properly? Well, number one, you have to understand that in your position, who you are and what you do, your job's not to sell insurance. Your job's not to sell anything. I don't care whether it's selling cars. I don't care whether it's selling houses, insurance, or anything like that. I adopt a model and a mental mindset of, I solve problems. In doing so, removes fear. All right. If fear is the primary motivator of action and behavior, it is something that drives everything else, and we interpret it as other emotions. And when you look at what fear does to the body, elevated cortisol levels, stress, that pit in your stomach, that pain in your chest. I have seen the bravest, craziest, damn near psychotic men that would literally like jump on a grenade, no problem, didn't care about anything. When something important to them was in jeopardy, for example, I saw the scariest man I've ever met in my life literally go into shock and fear when it came to his kid getting sick. Sitting there sobbing and shaking, not an adrenaline shake or anything like that, just absolutely paralyzed and terrified by fear, and would have done anything if I could have actually helped out his kid. Anything. I established combat veteran, still active duty, special. The guy's a SEAL, right? I've also seen the most measured and calculating people ever absolutely throw their life away because they're afraid of something happening to someone they love. That's fear. It overrides all the logic, overrides all the toughness, all the other programming out there. This one thing that's important to me is at jeopardy, I have to remove that jeopardy. You've got to stop the damage. All right. So if you're coming from these presentations and you're talking to the customers, you have to understand that they have fears. Your job is to remove those fears. How you do that is by providing them a product that fixes the problem they're afraid of. No one gives a shit about deductibles. They care about if they're going to go through financial ruin. Or they care about inconvenience. They don't want pain. They're avoiding pain because you're afraid of things that cause you pain, right? Whether emotional pain, which, by the way, your brain is so dumb. Your brain's so dumb, it can't even tell the difference between emotional and physical pain. It reacts the exact same way. If I trigger emotional pain or someone's in a social rejection period, their brain lights up as if I set them on fire with a hot poker. The exact same way. They can't tell the difference on an electroencephalogram. Their heart rate goes up the same rate. Their cortisol levels go up and peak. All the same things happen. So emotional pain, physical pain, all of those elicit fear. You have the fear so it'll keep you alive. It's a survival mechanism. You will never, ever, ever find something more important than survival of the species. It's evolution. So if I become the bastion, right? If I become the solution, me personally, not just the product, to what's causing fear, I win. They will do whatever I tell them to. Right? Now, how do we do that? Well, number one, since we're ethical people, we don't fear monger. You can't manufacture fear. Or if you do, you're just sick. Well, so that is your number one motivation. Solve the problems that are causing the fear, causing pain. Pain avoidance is a huge thing. I have seen people just languish in front of immense opportunity, especially in this industry, cannot motivate themselves to do the basics. But man, they work their ass off when that eviction notice comes. Woo! Anyone seen that? That car note's about to hit, they're going to take your car, and that guy was like, oh, well, he's the best worker every 2 months. Always sitting there lamenting how he's broke, how he can do this, that. All right. So anyway, I want to keep this short. All right. So how are we going to find out there? How are we going to actually utilize fear and resolve the fear and make a sale? Number one, discovery. For real. All too often, everyone sits there and thinks discovery is just the condition that they're in. What's their health? What plans do they currently have? What all this other stuff is. Doesn't really matter. I mean, it's good to have it and helps you, get a footing on where you are. But it's not, you knowing that they have a plan G already isn't going to help you really sell that plan G. Because they're going to have fears about losing some of the stuff they have in that plan G. So, discovery for real. You got to talk to the individual and the human being as a human being. We don't need to be talking all the time about the products. We don't need to be talking about deductibles, copays, using language they don't understand. Or even if they do understand, doesn't matter because that part of the brain doesn't actually make the decision. Again, your neocortex processes all language and math. It doesn't make any decisions. None. That's your cingulate cortex that does that. So for real, when you do discovery for real, it's going to do a couple things for you. A, what is their fear? All right, I want you to give me something, a scenario here. Grip, I want you to really think about this. Really. Don't just answer immediately. I want you to think about it. What terrifies the living shit out of you?
The biggest fear, because I've always feared it my entire life, is I don't have a lot of fears, but there's one fear that I always hold on to. It drives me, and that's being broke.
Okay.
I do whatever I can to not be broke.
Okay. So, fear of financial ruin.
Yes.
That's also a fear of instability.
Right.
Now, what comes with being broke, guys? Guys, I want you to think about this. If you want to input on this, feel free to raise your hand. What comes with being broke? Okay. Stress, true. Okay. What do you lose if you don't have money? Let's go to that. What are you losing if you don't have money? Because I'll tell you what, fear of being broke is the actual fear of loss scenario.
Right.
Fear of loss is incredibly, incredibly powerful.
Right.
So, fear of loss.
Mm-hmm.
That's one type of fear you can address. So, fear of loss. When you're broke, going through financial distress, what do you lose?
My shelter, like my living,
Your security.
security, right?
Okay. Shelter is a basic human need. You
Uh-huh.
can't die without it.
Right.
What about loss of freedom?
Probably.
You don't have a car. Do you have freedom of movement?
No.
Right? You don't have money to buy food, so you're going to eat crap. You don't have choices.
Mm-hmm.
If you're poor, you don't have choices. If you're in financial distress, you have no choice. So loss of freedom, right?
Mm-hmm.
Loss of security, loss of freedom, loss of friends. You know that you can't hang out with people if you're dead broke, or you shouldn't. What about loss of your position in your tribe?
Mm-hmm.
You're the breadwinner. What are your kids going to think about you? Are you going to lose their respect?
Mm-hmm.
Loss is incredibly powerful. So when you're thinking of all those things that come with that and fear of loss, and you keep on talking about how Plan G is the same thing as their current Plan G, they're going to go, oh, I understand that. It doesn't matter. I'm not afraid to move. I'm not afraid enough of losing something that I'm going to cause an action. So what you have to do, because that's what you're stacking up here, guys, you're putting on scales different fears, right? And the fear of not doing this has to outweigh the fear of what happens if I do it. So that fear of loss is huge. We also have fear of the unknown. This comes from the fact that we are not a nocturnal creature in general, and there's a lot of stuff at night that'll kill you. People are afraid of the dark for a reason. They're afraid of the ocean for a reason. We don't belong there. That shit's scary. Right? Why? Because it's dangerous. Walking around at night in the forest is a recipe for disaster. That's why even in the military, nighttime operations are very dangerous, especially for recon operations, so you don't have like 1,000 people around you to scare off everything. It's pretty dangerous. All right? Fear of loss, fear of the unknown. Anyone else got a different type of fear?
We're still in public.
Yeah, we're still public, but Lena says not being able to take care of your family and losing sleep over that.
That's right.
Yep.
Repeat what I said.
Fear of failure.
Fear of losing your family.
Well, that's the reason the fear of failure is there. As part of your evolution, our evolution as a human being, because we're a tribal animal, the only way we can survive is in a pack because we don't have claws. We can't run worth shit, right? We don't have fangs. We're not even strong. Chimps are stronger than us by a factor of 10. You know? And if you don't think your dog's strong, anyone ever have a dog jump on them and realize that that thing is just like maybe 90 pounds of muscle and could kill you? You're like, oh, wow, that's scary. So we don't have that. So fear of failure, which is actually ultimately fear of rejection. If you're back in the old days, if you were expelled from your tribe, your community, it was the worst death sentence. People would request execution rather than exile because they know when in a couple of days they're going to die dirty. So fear of failure is actually tied into if I fail so much and I become a burden to my unit, I will be expelled from my unit and then I'm alone, and that's a death sentence. That's why social rejection is so damaging to people. That's why you guys are afraid to get on the phone and talk to someone, because you're afraid you'll experience social rejection. Okay? And it's not your fault. You evolved this way. This was already done millions of years ago. When we were hunter-gatherers, when we were first getting out of trees, that's how this happens. And understanding that gives you a powerful notion of going, I'm only afraid because my dumb brain had evolved to deal with the fact that I can't screw up enough when there's only 5 or 6 of us because, well, one guy's got to stay up at night and keep the rest of us alive, right? That fear of failure is a result of you can't be expelled from your tribe. Fear of rejection. So when you feel rejected, it goes, oh, that's dangerous. So that's a good point. Really good question. All right. So we have a couple of these, and I can go on and on and on about that. Understand that your customers have the same problem. They don't want to make a mistake. Triggers rejection. They don't want to lose anything. They could have a crap plan, and they'll tell you, I just don't want to lose this plan. Fear of loss. So how do I counter some of that? Well, a lot of people call it FOMO, fear of missing out. Okay? Fear of missing out. I don't like that because it's cute, and I'm not a cute person.
Well, that,
I like it.
You're hard on yourself.
FOMO, fear of missing out. What does that say? But really what you should be talking about and what you should be thinking about is fear of loss of opportunity. Since fear of loss is one of the primary functions, I don't want to lose my family. I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to lose my house. I don't want to lose my respect. I don't want to lose my freedom. I don't want to lose this. I don't want to lose my tribe. I want to lose my money.
hashtag FOLO.
Yeah, fear of loss of opportunity. I have to put a fear of loss in there. So when we're talking about that, right, when we have these conversations with people and they're starting to go, well, I love my current plan. Your current plan's awesome. I don't want you to lose anything you have with your current plan. I don't want to change a thing about it. I just want to make sure that you're not losing out on extra benefits, or I want to make sure that you're not paying too much for it. You're not losing any money on it. Oh, well, I've just countered your fear of loss with another loss scenario. Your inaction will now lose you something. So instead of having an argument saying, well, it's the exact same thing. No, I get it. I want to make that happen where you don't lose that. Just want to make sure you're not losing anything else. Because if you don't take advantage of it, you're losing it. Now, the next step on that is this. We only got a few more minutes here, but I'll be able to clear it up. You guys have already seen this if you've gone through your script. You've seen the implementation of it, and I don't know if you're able to put it together on this. The best way to exercise this, and the most efficient way that we've seen so far, is what we call selector questions. I call these the no-duh questions. I'm an American. Of course I want that because I don't want to lose something. If I pose to somebody, when I'm actually going through here, I've already chosen their plan. I already know what I want to get them. But I have to make them actualize what they want. I already know their fears. I've already talked to them about their life and other things on there. Nothing dealing with insurance. You don't find out what people's fears are by talking about deductibles, co-pays, and excess charges. Talk to them about real stuff. What'd you do for a living? Oh my God, that's a hard job. Do you ever see any accidents? I mean, that happens a lot, like heavy equipment. Oh yeah, man, I gotta lose an arm. Whew. That registered, that's stuck in his head forever. Let's go and talk about that. And then we go, hey, so when that happens, you know, we all know it can, you've seen it. What are you worried about? Well, that took away his job. We needed to get that done. The medical bills were awful. Well, that's why you got what you got, but let's go ahead and make sure that isn't a problem. Oh, they'll follow you forever. But with selector questions, that actually codifies it. So when you make selector questions, people keep on hearing, I keep on hearing this. Well, ask them if they want a lower premium or a lower deductible. That's not a selector question. Imagine this for a selector question. I understand that you've been going to the same doctor for 30 years. You like your doctor, right? Okay, yeah. All right. Do you want to keep your doctor and have the freedom to keep that doctor? Or are you okay with just them telling you who to go see and when to go see him? Oh, I'm going to lose freedom? Hell no. I want to keep my doctor. I want to go with the thing that lets me do what I want to do. Okay, good. Right? Do you want to keep are you okay? You want to go ahead and are you okay with like a lot of out-of-pocket expenses when you have to go see you, like if you get cancer? Because I already talked to you earlier and you have a family history of cancer. If you end up coming with cancer, are you okay putting out about $70,000 for that? Or do you want that just taken care of for you? I want it taken care of for me. I don't want to have that loss scenario of my financial stability, being poor and losing my freedom. Right? Those are selector questions, and you're not asking to figure out what they want. You're getting them to tell you that they want to avoid a fear, and you're getting them to say, actualize and speak it to truth, that that's what we're doing. And it doesn't matter if you're selling them the same product. I ask those kind of questions every single time, whether I'm moving from the same plan or not. And by the way, if you want to talk to someone that's actually thinking about Advantage plans, that's how you break them of Advantage plans. Just on network, even a PPO, network restrictions or pre-approvals, done. But if you ask them, do you want to have no network or you want to avoid pre-approvals? They go, I'm okay. But if you go, hey, when that shit hits the fan, you want to be extra. Do you want to be able to go? You want to just go to a county hospital, which is about 70% survival? Do you want to go to MD Anderson, which is 96% survival? I want to go to MD Anderson. Okay, then we're doing this. They won't question you. They don't care about the price at that point. It doesn't matter because they're not losing $10 a month or $20 a month in difference in price. What they are doing is they're preventing the loss of all of that things you just talked about, and you made them choose it. And they will do it every time. You have no idea how many times I've actually sold a policy and I almost forgot to give them the price. It was like at the end, like when I'm getting banking information. Oh yeah, by the way, that's going to be $173 a month. Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, it is. So that's how we utilize fear in a proper and healthy way for our clients. We get them to understand that they're fearing, or at least talk about it. And then I go, I'm going to take away that fear from you. That's it. And by the way, I mean, it's a stupid thing to say, but hell, people made millions of dollars by selling no fear bumper stickers, for God's sakes. I mean, I know I'm very old. My voice still isn't really fully back. I kind of like it. Most people say raspy. I prefer sultry. So,
Okay, Demi Moore.
God. So, but that's it for fear, how it's affecting you and your interactions. Understand that their fears are far bigger than yours on getting on the phone, so it doesn't hurt you. Understand that getting on the phone and experimentation and failure is an essential part of learning, and we understand that, and that's why we're providing you those leads. You cannot mess up. right? You can't mess up. You can only quit. That's the only failure you got. You put you in a no-loss scenario here. Go practice. That's what we want you to do. And then as you develop and you grow and you start spending your own money on some of these leads that are higher contact rate, well, you got your feet under you. You're never going to see me go, man, you made too many calls and talked to too many people. Really? Come on. But you will hear me go, why the hell haven't you even tried? Why are you so afraid? Worst thing they're going to do is tell you no, fear of rejection. And now you're not going to be in the forest alone. So that's not a big deal for you. So that's it, guys. I've kept it at 30 minutes. Fantastic. All right. All right. So that's going to be the end for the topic today. Feel free to share this, guys. I noticed last time that I did one of these, it got shared out a lot. You guys don't have to hide this information. If you disagree with it, or if you know anyone else that think you can benefit from it, or you just want to check my work, feel free to send it out. I don't care. But if you think it'll help anyone that's there, all agents, that'll be the end for the public viewing area. For the agents, stick around. We'll do the Q&A session and the private session here next. So again, this has been Frank Bryant, Medicare Gurus. You guys all have a great day. And if you ever have any questions of us, reach out. We'll be here for you.